Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters, welcome to the Stories of Wisdom YouTube channel. Please smash the like button and subscribe. It costs you nothing, but for the Stories of Wisdom team, it means a lot. If you'd like to treat the Stories of Wisdom team to a coffee, you can scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. Your support is truly appreciated. Your support motivates us to bring you more content on this important topic. Barakallahu fikum. Let's get started. Mus'ab ibn Umayr was born and raised in abundance and luxury. His affluent parents showered him with care and attention. He used to wear the most expensive clothes and the finest Yemeni footwear, the most elegant of his time. In his youth, he was admired by the Quraysh not only for his pleasing appearance, but also for his intelligence. His distinguished demeanor and sharp mind won him the favor of the Meccan nobility, among whom he moved with ease. Despite his young age, he had the privilege of attending the meetings and gatherings of the Quraysh. This allowed him to be aware of the issues discussed by the Meccans, as well as their attitudes and strategies. Among the Meccans, great commotion and concern were stirred by Muhammad, known as Al-Amin, the trustworthy, when he proclaimed that he had been sent by God to bring good news and a warning. He warned the Quraysh of the terrible punishment awaiting them if they did not turn to the worship and obedience of God, as well as the divine reward for the righteous. All of Mecca resounded with discussions of these statements. The corrupt Quraysh leaders devised various schemes to silence Muhammad. When ridicule and persuasion proved futile, they launched a campaign of harassment and persecution. Mus'ab had heard that Muhammad and those who accepted his message would gather at the house of Al-Arqam, near the hill of As-Safa, to escape the hostility of the Quraysh. Driven by curiosity, Mus'ab made his way to the house, undeterred by the Quraysh's animosity. At the time of his arrival, the Prophet, after teaching a small group of companions some verses of the Quran, was performing the prayer, Salat, with them in submission to God, the Great, the Most High. The Prophet, peace be upon him, welcomed Mus'ab and touched his heart with his hand, calming the turmoil within him. A deep sense of tranquility overwhelmed Mus'ab. He was completely overawed by what he had seen and heard. The words of the Quran had an immediate and profound impact on him. During his first meeting with the Prophet, the young and resolute Mus'ab declared his acceptance of Islam. It was a historic moment. Mus'ab's keen intellect, steadfast will, determination, eloquence, and noble character were now in service of Islam, destined to alter the course of events and history. In accepting Islam, Mus'ab had one major concern: his mother, Khunas bint Malik. She was a woman of extraordinary power, possessing a dominant personality capable of instilling fear and terror with ease. When Mus'ab became Muslim, the only power on earth that could still intimidate him was his mother. The powerful nobles of Mecca and their adherence to pagan traditions meant nothing to him. However, his mother's hostility could not be taken lightly. Mus'ab quickly assessed the situation and decided to conceal his acceptance of Islam until a solution came from God. He continued to visit the house of Al-Arqam and sit in the company of the Prophet. Content in his new faith, he remained silent about his decision, successfully avoiding his mother's wrath, but not for long. In Mecca, it was difficult to keep a secret for long. The eyes and ears of the Quraysh were in every corner of the city. Behind every footprint left in the scorching sand, there lurked a Quraysh informant. Before long, Mus'ab was seen entering the house of Al-Arqam by a man named Uthman ibn Talha, who later saw him praying in the same manner as Muhammad. The conclusion was obvious. Like a stormy wind, the devastating news of Mus'ab's acceptance of Islam spread among the Quraysh, eventually reaching his mother's ears. Mus'ab was summoned before his mother, his clan, and the Quraysh nobility, who gathered to hear what he had done and his stance on the matter. With humility and calm confidence, Mus'ab acknowledged his conversion to Islam and explained his reasons. He then recited some verses of the Quran, verses that purified the hearts of the believers, bringing them back to the natural religion of God. Though few in number, their hearts overflowed with wisdom, honor, justice, and courage. His mother, upon hearing the words of the son she had showered with so much care and affection, burned with anger. She thought of silencing him by beating him violently. But as she raised her hand to strike, like an arrow poised to fly, she hesitated, lost in the light radiating from Mus'ab's serene face. Perhaps it was her motherly love that held her back. Yet she felt compelled to do something to avenge the gods her son had abandoned. The solution she devised was far worse than any beating. She ordered that Mus'ab be taken to a remote corner of the house. There, he was confined and tightly bound, becoming a prisoner in his own home. For a long time, Mus'ab remained under the watchful eye of the guards his mother had assigned to prevent any further contact with Muhammad and his faith. Under this trial, Mus'ab did not waver, knowing that other Muslims were being harassed and tortured by the idolaters. For him, as for many of his fellow believers, life in Mecca was becoming increasingly intolerable. Finally, he learned that a group of Muslims was secretly preparing to emigrate to Abyssinia to seek refuge and protection. His thoughts turned to escaping his prison to join them. At the first opportunity, taking advantage of a momentary distraction from his mother and his captors, Mus'ab quietly escaped. Hurriedly reaching the other emigrants, he set sail from the shores of the Red Sea, bound for Africa. Though in the land of the Negus they enjoyed peace and security, the refugees soon longed to return to Mecca and be in the company of the noble prophet. When news arrived in Abyssinia that the situation for Muslims in Mecca had improved, Mus'ab was among the first to decide to return. The report soon proved false, and Mus'ab once again set sail for Abyssinia. Both in Mecca and in Abyssinia, Mus'ab remained steadfast in his new faith, eager to align his life with the will of his Creator. Upon returning to Mecca, his mother made one last attempt to control him, threatening to imprison him again. Mus'ab then swore that if she did, he would kill anyone who assisted her. Realizing the iron determination Mus'ab had shown, his mother understood that his threat was real. There was nothing left but to part ways. When the moment came, great sadness overcame them both. Yet this did not change his mother's firm determination to persist in disbelief, nor Mus'ab's even greater resolve and faith. Expelling him from the house and cutting him off from all the material comforts she had once lavished upon him, she said, "Go your way. I refuse to be a mother to you." Mus'ab approached her and said, "Mother, I want to give you sincere advice. I worry for you. Testify that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and messenger." "I swear by the falling stars," she replied, "I will never enter your religion, even if my mind is ridiculed and my reason falters." Mus'ab then left his mother's house, along with the luxury and comforts he had once enjoyed. From now on, the elegant and well-dressed young man would appear in the coarsest and most humble of garments. His heart was now set on far greater things. He was determined to dedicate his talent and energy to knowing and serving God and his prophet. One day, years later, Mus'ab sat among a group of Muslims gathered around the prophet, peace be upon him. As they saw him, they lowered their heads and cast their eyes down, some moved to tears. This was because his jalbab was so old and tattered that it brought back memories of his days before Islam, when he had been the model of sartorial elegance. The Prophet, looking at Mus'ab, smiled and said, "I saw this Mus'ab in Mecca with his parents, who showered him with care and granted him every luxury. No Quraysh youth was like him. Then he left all of it to seek the pleasure of God and to serve his Prophet." The Prophet, pbuh, then added, "A time will come when God will grant you victory over Persia and Byzantium. You will then have a garment for the morning and another for the evening, and you will eat from one plate in the morning and another in the evening." In other words, the Prophet, peace be upon him, foretold that the Muslims would become wealthy and powerful, acquiring material possessions in abundance. The companions then asked him, "O Messenger of God, is our situation better now, or will it be better then?" He replied, "Your situation is better now than it will be then. If you had knowledge of this world as I do, you would not be so concerned about it." On another occasion, the Prophet, peace be upon him, addressed his companions in a similar way, asking how they would behave if they had one set of clothes for the day and another for the evening, and enough wealth to cover their homes in drapes like the Kaaba. The companions responded that their situation would be better because they would have enough sustenance and free time for ibadah, worship. However, the Prophet, peace be upon him, replied that their current state was undoubtedly better. After nearly 10 years of calling people to Islam, the majority of the Meccans still remained hostile. The noble Prophet, peace be upon him, then traveled to Ta'if in search of new followers, but he was rejected and expelled from the city. The future of Islam seemed bleak. It was after this event that the Prophet chose Mus'ab as his ambassador to Yathrib with the mission of teaching Islam to a small group of believers who had pledged their allegiance. They were preparing the city, later known as Madinah an-Nabi, for the great Hijrah. Mus'ab was chosen over older, more prestigious companions who were closer to the Prophet. His selection was undoubtedly due to his noble character, refined manners, and keen intellect. His knowledge of the Quran and his touching recitation were also decisive factors. Mus'ab fully understood the purpose of his mission. It was a sacred duty to invite people to God and to the straight path of Islam while laying the foundations for what would become the territorial base of the young and dynamic Islamic community. He arrived in Yathrib as the guest of Sa'd ibn Zurara, a member of the Khazraj tribe. Together, they met the people of the city in their homes and gatherings, speaking about the Prophet, explaining Islam, and reciting the Quran. By God's grace, many accepted the new faith. This success alarmed several leaders of Yathrib's society. One day, while Mus'ab and Sa'd sat near a well belonging to the Zafar clan, accompanied by new Muslims and others interested in Islam, a powerful notable of the city, Usayd ibn Khudair, approached them in a fury, brandishing a spear. Seeing him, Sa'd ibn Zurara turned to Mus'ab and said, "This is a tribal leader. May God place the truth in his heart. If he sits down, I will speak with him," replied Mus'ab, displaying the calm and tact of a great preacher. Furious, Usayd insulted and threatened Mus'ab and his host, saying, "Why have you come to corrupt the weak among us? Leave if you wish to stay alive." Mus'ab smiled kindly and said to Usayd, "Why don't you sit with us and listen? If you are satisfied with our message, you may accept it. If not, we will stop saying what displeases you and leave." "That sounds reasonable," Usayd conceded. Planting his spear in the ground, he sat down. Mus'ab, without pressure or argument, simply invited him to listen. If his words pleased him, well and good. If not, he would quietly move on to another district and another tribe. Mus'ab then described Islam and recited the Quran. Even before Usayd could speak, his face, now radiant and hopeful, revealed that faith had penetrated his heart. He said, "How beautiful and true these words are! What must I do to enter this religion? Perform a ghusl, ritual purification. Cleanse your clothes, then testify to the truth, shahada, and perform salat," Mus'ab instructed. Usayd briefly left the gathering, and upon his return, he testified that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. After performing 2 prostrations, he said, "After me there is a man who, if he follows you, will bring his entire people with him. I will call him now. His name is Sa'd ibn Mu'adh." Sa'd arrived and listened to Mus'ab. Convinced and satisfied, he declared his submission to God. He was followed by another influential Yathrib leader, Sa'd ibn Ubadah. Not long after, the entire population of Yathrib was abuzz, asking what was happening. If Usayd ibn Khudayr, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, and Sa'd ibn Ubadah have accepted this new religion, how can we not follow them? Let us go to Mus'ab and believe with him. It is said that truth flows from his lips. The Prophet's first ambassador had achieved great success. The Prophet, peace be upon him, had made the right choice. Men and women, young and old, powerful and weak, all accepted Islam at Mus'ab's hands. The course of Yathrib's history was forever changed. The way was now prepared for the great Hijrah. Yathrib would soon become the center and base of the Islamic government and the launching point for the spread of Islam across the world. Less than a year after arriving in Yathrib, Mus'ab returned to Mecca during the pilgrimage season. He was accompanied by 75 Muslims from Yathrib. Near Mina at Al-Aqaba, they met the Prophet and solemnly pledged to defend him at all costs. If they remained steadfast in their faith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, their reward would be nothing less than paradise. This second bay'ah, pledge, became known as the Pledge of War. From that moment, events unfolded rapidly. The Prophet, peace be upon him, soon ordered his persecuted followers to emigrate to Yathrib, where the new Muslims, or Ansar, helpers, had shown their willingness to provide asylum and protection. Among the first companions to arrive in Yathrib were Mus'ab ibn Umayr and the blind Abdullah ibn Maktoum. Both, according to the testimony of an Ansari, recited the Quran to the people of Yathrib. Mus'ab continued to play a crucial role in building the new community. Another significant event in which Mus'ab played a key role was the Great Battle of Badr. At the end of the battle, the Quraysh prisoners of war were brought before the Prophet, peace be upon him, who entrusted each one to individual Muslims for custody. "Treat them well," he ordered. Among the prisoners was Abu Aziz ibn Umayr, Mus'ab's own brother. Abu Aziz later recounted what happened. "I was among a group of the Ansar. At every meal, they would offer me bread and dates in accordance with the Prophet's, peace be upon him, command to treat me with kindness. My brother, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, passed by and said to the man holding me captive, 'Tie him tightly. His mother is a wealthy woman, and she may be willing to pay a ransom for his release.' I could hardly believe my ears. Astonished, I turned to Mus'ab and asked, 'My brother, is this your order regarding me?' Mus'ab replied, 'He is my brother, not you.' With this, Mus'ab made it clear that in the conflict between faith, iman, and disbelief, kufr, religious bonds took precedence over family ties. The Battle of Uhud. At the Battle of Uhud, the Prophet, peace be upon him, called upon Mus'ab, now known as Mus'ab al-Khair, Mus'ab the Good, to carry the banner of Islam. At the beginning of the battle, the Muslims gained the upper hand. However, a group of them, disobeying the Prophet's orders, abandoned their position. Seeing this, the polytheists regrouped and launched a counterattack. Breaking through the ranks of the Muslims, they set their sights on their primary target, the capture of the noble prophet. Peace be upon him. Mus'ab immediately recognized the grave danger facing the prophet. Raising the banner high and proclaiming the takbir, he charged at the Quraysh forces with his sword in hand. The odds were overwhelmingly against him. Then, turning to his companions nearby, he said, "O people, visit them and send peace upon them. For by him in whose hand is my soul, whenever a Muslim sends peace upon them until the day of Qiyamah, they will return the greeting of peace." Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free for you, but makes a huge difference for the Stories of Wisdom team. Want to support us? You can buy us a coffee by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description. Every contribution helps and is deeply appreciated. Your support keeps us going. It motivates us to bring you even more inspiring content on this important topic. Check out the next amazing video about our beautiful religion. Barakallahu fikum.